In normal fashion, we just got a call and now we have to do an audio job at 8 a.m. on a Sunday. The requirements for this one was they need an A1 for a band. We're bringing a PA, we're bringing stage monitors, mics, mic stands, everything, the mixer, the stage box, cables, etc. But we only have basically an hour to do our entire setup. Then we have a sound check and then we perform for 30 minutes and then we're done. So really fast, quick gig, and that's okay. We're happy to do it, but we need to prepare for it. So with all the other craziness and tearing down the studio, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna set up this mixer ready to go so that I don't have to like reconfigure it and put labels on things while I'm there. I'm gonna set up all right now, so when I turn the board on, when I get on site, it's all pre-configured as far as I can right now. So first thing I'm gonna do is actually reset the board, right? Scenes. Reset mix settings. Okay. I hit reset. Mixer config roll. Interesting. All right, so I'm going to go here to standard, which just basically sets this up so that I can mix a band with, from front of house or at least behind the band and not necessarily for the monitor. So I'm going to hit reset here. It's going to say, are you sure you want to reset? Yes. Okay, second I do that, all the labels reset, the surfaces reset. I reset my board pretty much every single time I'm about to do a show. So we have layers on this board, right? And so basically I have input 1 through 16 on my first layer, 17 through 32, and 33 through 40, even though it's a 48 channel board. I reset the board every time. Now I'm gonna go in and start labeling things. When you're an audio tech, you usually have a certain way you'd like to set up your boards every single time. Doesn't matter what board you're on, but you're gonna do things the same way. And a lot of audio techs do things very similar to other ones, and there's like a consistency there. So it's not out of the question. There's not a specific exact way to do this. It's just preference. My preference is my drums are like my first 8 channels, right? And I do this everywhere. I've done this in all the installs that we do. I do this every time I use a band. So my first 8. So basically I have my drums, then I have my instruments, then I have my vocals. That's how I set it up, and then I can customize these layers here to be Dca groups and things like that. So first things first is I'm just gonna throw up all my labels. So first one here is I'm gonna write kick. And then what's really nice about this board is I can just hit the select button and go to my next one. And you can see kick shows up right there. That's gonna be for my kick drum. And I can already pre-EQ this and set my subwoofer levels and things like that, my aux out. So there's my kick, then I'm gonna have snare, and then I'm gonna do hi-hat, and I'm gonna just type all these in. Then I have my toms. So this is gonna be tom 1. Again, I don't know how many drums, toms, rack is actually on the drum set, so I always do 3 just to be safe, and then I can adjust from there. Tom 3. All right, and then I have my 2 overheads. And then the other thing I'm gonna do is I like to color code, if that's an option on the board, I like to color code it. So I'm gonna make all of these blue for my drum set. So now when I look at this board, I can see my first 8, there are my drums. Now I'm gonna do my instruments. Again, I usually set this up the same way, and then I have some extra spaces for those extra instruments. I know for a fact there's going to be a bass, there's going to be a guitar, there's going to be a keyboard. That's all I know for a fact, and obviously a drum set. So I'm gonna make sure I have those ones in here and leave some extra space in case they have a sampler pad for the drums, in case they have, hey, the keyboard's also gonna play guitar at certain points, etc. I'm gonna have extra space for those. So number 9, again, my first 8 are for my drums. Number 9 is going to be my bass. Number 10 is going to be my guitar 1. All right. I will also just have in here a guitar 2 just to have it. Again, might not use it. And then I leave space, and at the end over here, my 15 and 16, they're going to be my keys. So key 1, and I know my keys are going to be in stereo because I've talked to the client. So this is actually going to be not key 1, but key left. And then I'm going to have my key right. Okay. And so input 12, 13, and 14 are just not being used right now. Again, if I have some extra inputs, I can plug some things in and use those, but they're just available for me. So that's one layer there. And again, I'm gonna recreate Dca Groups so that all of my drums are on one fader, kind of all of my strings are on another fader, and then my vocals could be, or I'll keep my vocals all separate. I do like to have basically my instruments, and then my vocals are all over here, so I can access them quickly. And that just depends on what layer I'm on. Okay, so that's my first layer. Let's go to my second layer here, input 17, and I actually skip all the way to 24. And so I basically do 5 vocals starting at 20. So 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24 are always my vocals. Again, 17, 18, 19 are extra inputs that I use. I do this on every board. Stage boxes are usually about 24 channels, so that's why I stick to having everything fit within 24 the same way every time. All these extra inputs are just extra for me, for most of the bands that I do. Okay, so I'm going to do vocal 1. And sorry, vocal shouldn't be actually VOC. VOX is the standard in vocals. So Vox 1, and then here we go. Shift, there it is. Vox, nope, Vox, VOX. Vox 2, Vox 3, Vox 4, and then, whoops, over here, Vox 5. All right, so 5 vocals ready to go there. Again, if I have more, I have space for them. On this particular board, basically you can do up to 48 channels, so that's nice. There's 16 inputs on the back of this board alone, and then the stage box has another 24. If I can get away with it, I don't necessarily use them separately. So I won't do 16 plus 24, which gets me, what is that, 30, 40? That gives me 40 inputs. I don't normally use all 40. I try to keep my numbering on the back of here, 1 through 16, and then I keep the same numbering on the stage box. That way I can decide to plug something into the back of this board if I'm on stage left and I put the stage box behind, or on stage right, and I can use them interchangeably. And I will change ports if I need to. The good thing about resetting the board is I know that all 16 of these are routed to 1 through 16 from the start. Okay, so I now have my labels, which is great. I'm gonna go to my outputs. My left-right output, that doesn't change. That's always my main PA. On output number 8, aux 8, I run my sub. That happens every single time. So I'm gonna go over here to aux 8, and I'm gonna relabel this as subs. Okay, and then mix 1, it's just going to be, I could do this out. So I'm gonna do lead, usually the lead singer. And then I'm gonna do, I do my guitar. And I'm gonna write actually your guitar mon. Oops. Camel case, guitar mon. Lead, guitar. This is going to be keys. I'm gonna do 4 is always my drums. Output 5 can be my bass. Oops, I should write bass like that. All right, I'm gonna do bass mon. All right, so I now have everything labeled that I need. 6 and 7, again, are just extra. If I'm doing delays, when I'm doing satellite speakers, I will run them on 6 or 7 on post fader and then set my delays and do things like that. But I know for a fact I'm not doing delays in this venue. PA right up front with 2 subs, right? And then I have all my stage monitors and things like that. So we're getting close to being kind of fully set up for what I need here. Next thing I'm going to do is either set up my Dca Groups or check all of my routing. I'm actually going to check my routing because I know I'm using a stage box. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up. So I'm going to go to I/O here. All right, so this I/O button. And this is how you're going to set your inputs and outputs. So I know for a fact my inputs on the S-Link. The S-Link is going to be the stage box. I'm going to just default to plugging everything into the stage box. So my kick is on 1. Yes, I know. And basically it's showing me all these lines because the stage box is not currently connected. So bass is on 9, good. And this is really easy because they're just lining up. So 17 should be with 17, correct. All the way till 24, so right there. All right, good, 24. So that's it. That's all you have to do. And so then if I go to local here, you can see that nothing's patched on the back of this board, which is fine because I'll quickly come into the back and patch it if I need to. All right, so that's that. We're good to go there. That also allows me to say, oh, I want something on channel 25. I can just pick any port on the back, like port number 1 on the back here, and I can patch that to the input 25 on the actual board. So that is very handy and easy to do quickly. And if everything's kind of blank exactly how you want it, when you need to change things, you're not having to like reconfigure the whole board. You just make your one change for how you want it. So that is the S-Link. That's how you patch inputs. Let's patch outputs now. My outputs, again, always the same. There's going to be a total of 12 outputs on my stage box. So I'm not going to go to groups. I'm going to go to my outputs here. I'm going to go to my S-Link. And you can double patch outputs, meaning I can have outputs, which is the local outputs on the back of here, be all of these. And then I can go to my S-Link and I can do the exact same patch. That's how this one is going to be set up. So I'm going to go to my S-Link. That's going to be my first output there, second output, keys, drums, bass, and then aux 6. And I just usually use the left. I don't usually do left and right, especially for my monitors unless I need to. Subs is going to be on 8. And so actually I do my main left and right on 11 and 12. Main left, main right. And then my subs, I'm going to do subs left, sub right. It doesn't really matter. So let's output 9. Okay, cool. I can leave both of these guys. 7. It's fine. 8's just not in use. 9, 10, 11, 12. Good. All right, so that basically means I have 12 XLR outputs on my stage box, and this is how I want them. My first 5 really are going for my aux outs, and then I have my last 4, which is 9, 10, 11, and 12, subwoofer left, subwoofer right, top left, top right. And that's how this reads. That's how you should read how I'm patching things here. So that's that. So we are good in terms of our routing now. So it's getting to be a longer video. Last thing I'll do here is kind of preset some mixes going to the different monitors here. So I'll just do the subs right off the back. I know I'm going to want some kick, right? So I go to aux output number 8 because that's for my subwoofer. And I know I'm going to want some kick drum. I don't want any snare. I don't want any hi-hat. I don't really want the first tom because that's usually like a higher pitched tom. I can do a little bit of the second one, and I want a lot of the third. The third one's usually that tom over here on the right, that low one. So I do want that going through the subwoofers. Your overheads, which are your cymbals, don't want any of that going to the subs. Definitely want my bass guitar going to the subs. I don't usually route my main electric guitar going to any subs or an acoustic for that matter. But my keyboard, I do have going to the subs just because it's usually a DI box and nice clean feed. And I wonder if I have a DI box here to show you. So a lot of times this is called a DI. You'll see it. This is a single port mono DI versus ones that have 2 1/4-inch that go to 2 different XLRs on the back. That's a stereo DI. That's what I'm going to be bringing to this gig. But I do have a couple of these guys and they're just handy. And what this does is you take a 1/4-inch input from a guitar, a bass, keyboard, a sampler pad, whatever your 1/4 inch might be, and you convert that to XLR so that it can plug into your stage box. And this gives you a very nice clean conversion versus like a cable, which might have some buzz, and it might be a dirtier sound. So this is going to give you a nice clean sound, and also stop a lot of problems from potentially having like phantom power and things like that, causing issues on the guitar end or bass end or keys or whatever. So that's a DI. And so this is how the instruments get plugged into XLR ports when they're 1/4 inch. So because I'm getting a nice clean signal, I can route them through the subs, and I'm not worried about risk of feedback because it's not an open mic, the keys going into the subs. It is a digital or analog sound signal coming into here. So I'm not worried about feedback from the subs, and that's why I can route my keys to it. However, my vocals, none of those are going to the subs. So now I'm good there, and I can go with my main page. I don't ever put up any of my faders ahead of time on my main page. I do want to check that output number 8 is all in post fader, and mixes 1 through 5, which are my stage monitors, are all in pre-fader. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So I'm going to go over here to kick, right? And so I'm under processing, and I can go to kick, and I'm going to go to routing. Okay, so processing is what my main page usually looks like. If I go to routing, I can go to mix sends down here. If I tap on mix sends, I can see that my lead, guitar monitor, key monitor, drum monitor, and bass monitor are all on pre-fader. That's correct. You want that. But all the way over here on subs, I want that to be post fader. Post fader, what that's going to allow to do is if I turn the kick drum up on my main page here, my main mix, what's going to happen over here is this fader is not going to move, but the signal going into the subs is going to increase as I turn up my subs on my main mix. If I turn my subs down on my main mix, they will also, the signal going to my subwoofers over here on aux 8 will also go down. Again, the fader won't physically move, but the volume going to it. If you need to understand pre and post fader, there's definitely a whole lot of videos out there on how to understand pre and post fader, but know that if you're doing stage monitors, you most likely want those on pre fader. If you're doing outputs going to the audience, subwoofers, delays, your main PA, technically your main PA should be on your kind of main left and right out, but if you're doing live streaming and all this other stuff, you can change up how you need. You want those on post fader, okay? Your live stream is going to be post fader, your main PA post fader, technically, your subs, your delays, satellite speakers, maybe feeds going to other rooms in a building, again, all on post fader. Your mixes for your stage monitors, you want that on pre-fader, so if you turn the guitar up or down, they're not hearing that sound in their stage monitor, unless they really want it in post fader. Most times they don't. Pre-fader is where you want to be. And I can confirm that on all of my other outputs here, I am in pre-fader. So now I'm just going to go one by one through all my mixes and just make sure I'm on post fader going to my subs. Again, if I had delays, I would do all that right now as well. But I'm just going to make sure everything is going on post fader to the subwoofer. I could technically just click off for like things that I don't want going to the subs, like my vocals. I don't do that just because I don't really need to, because I just know not to turn up vocals to my sub layer. But if I was building this board for someone else, I may actually do that just to prevent them from having any possible issues. Even though I'm not using these other ports, I'm just putting it on post fader just in case. Again, just trying to save myself work down the road. All right, well, I'm going to call it there. We went over labels, kind of setting up workflow of the board. I didn't rearrange what channels are routed technically where on my surfaces, but I would go and do that. But for right now, I'm going to have an iPad. I create a custom layer on the iPad that puts it in this order and gets rid of all the channels I don't need. Usually on the board, I just kind of leave it how it is. We didn't get into effects. We didn't get into like routing certain channels to DCA groups so that you can control like your whole drum set on one fader. but that's kind of more advanced stuff. This is the simple basics. If you understand everything I talked about in this video, then you are well on your way to being able to figure out how to at least set up a band. If not, then ring out the mics and kind of tune everything for the room and be able to make the band sound good and ring out your stage monitors separately from your main PA, etc. So again, we didn't go over EQ, we didn't go over any of that, but this is my first steps in setting up my audio board when I run a band. Hopefully that helps. Let me know if you guys have questions, if you guys like stuff on audio versus video versus lighting. We end up doing all of it, so there's definitely something a lot we can help with. So let us know. Feel free to reach out in the comments, and thanks for watching.